So my last video on the 12 worst bandmates of all time ended up doing really well. People really liked it, but they also pointed out many qualifying pricks who I happen to forget that should have definitely been on the list. They also pointed out that I mispronounced some of the names, which can happen sometimes, and look, here's what I have to say about that.
I'm kind of retarded.
So with a long list of contenders for the biggest band dickhead out there, I figured why not? Let's be like Marvel and rush out a sequel. So welcome to Worst Bandmates of All Time, Part 2. Like in the first video, the people on this list are well known for their self-righteous shittiness, either toward band members or fans, but it is not a list of worst crimes ever committed by musicians, because I already made that video before. And this will be the last episode of this series. So if I don't include your most hated band person out there, make your own video. So with that said, sit back and relax and get ready to laugh at some idiots as we go through part 2 of worst bandmates of all time. So headbang the like button, stage dive on the subscribe button, and windmill the video to your friends. And if you're a fan of the channel, consider becoming a member. Memberships only cost 99 cents a month, and each one really helps me toward my lifelong goal of creating a life-size Godzilla to invade Canada. And now for the worst bandmates of all time, part 2. Number 10, Perry Farrell. Here's one I've made fun of a few times already, but we do have an update on the situation. This drugged up senior citizen here is Perry Farrell, the now former vocalist of the band Jane's Addiction, and he is the entire reason the band is not touring the world right now, making tons of cash as we speak. Last year, the band was preparing to embark on a massive reunion tour around the globe. The band spent months rehearsing and organizing the tour, with the band members all agreeing on taking a democratic approach in their decisions. Except that is for Perry Farrell. Perry wouldn't show up for rehearsals. When he would appear, he'd be clearly wasted. Just a few hours before their massive tour started, he suddenly decided that he wanted an elaborate stage show with dancers and videos on stage.
It was decided, the majority of like, we just want to be 4 guys on stage. No backup singers, no dancers, none of that.
Yeah, old school, the music speaks for itself.
That's it.
Let's go and just play music and be awesome. Maybe some lighting.
Yep, of course.
Yeah.
Or some video content, lights, just like let's be a rock show and let's connect the 4 of us and do this thing together. There was immediate pushback from Perry on that issue. Dancers were kind of trying to be worked back into the tour.
Right.
Etty, Perry's wife, being one of the dancers, and maybe 1 or 2 others. And it came back to like, well, we decided that this is just not something that the majority of the band wants. More pushback, more problems from the Farrell camp to the rest of the guys. And it got to the point where like they were trying to figure out video content, and there was stuff where they presented stuff to Perry, and he's like, "I don't like that."
Right.
And the guys were like, "Cool, gone. It's
agreeably gone. That's what we agreed upon.
That's
to do.
democracy."
Yeah.
He took a camera crew into the desert and filmed content to present to the guys. The guys didn't see the stuff until we got to Vegas for the first show. Perry showed his stuff he created.
Right.
And it was
kind of at the witching hour, like right a few hours before the show,
and
correct?
Most of these people listening don't understand how production and tours work, but these are things that are usually worked out weeks, if not months before like your first show. This was going up to the last minute.
When that obviously wasn't doable, he threw a massive bitch fit, which of course ended up bursting out into viral hilarity when Perry did this. One small shove for an old man, one giant mountain of debt for everyone involved in the tour, as the band immediately disbanded and canceled all their remaining dates. And just the other day, it was announced that Dave Navarro and the rest of the band are suing Perry Farrell for $10 million for breach of contract and emotional distress. Perry Farrell has since countersued the band, claiming that for years the band has bullied and assaulted him, which sounds like a load of shit that'll be thrown out out of court immediately. Perry's defense team said that he was trying to tell Navarro that his guitar was too loud during their song Ocean Size. Quote, Frell did not throw any punches, but simply wanted to alert Navarro that he had to stop playing so loud, the paperwork reads. Pardon me, my musical brethren, would you mind turning your guitar down just a tad? Well, it'll be fun to see where that lawsuit goes. Number 9, Ingve Malmstein. In the last video, I mentioned Ritchie Blackmore, and I got a lot of comments saying, okay, but what about Malmstein? And I thought, yep, you're right. Ingve Malmstein is a Swedish guitar virtuoso. He is a magician of the meedly-meedlies. Just like Ritchie Blackmore, it seems most people in the music industry have personal stories of how incredible a guitar player and a dickhead Malmstein is. He's the kind of old-school rock star who won't get off the roller coaster until the entire park starts chanting his name. There are countless stories of fans who got to meet him, only to have their view of him and their wallets diminished. Former collaborators, such as Jakey Lee, have described him as a, quote, arrogant fucking asshole. Even metal filmmaker Sam Dunn struggled to herd this Scandinavian can of hairspray in for a simple interview.
It's not easy getting Ingve Malmstein. He's a little elusive. We had a plan, we were gonna go to a castle, but now he's not going to the castle until a day after we are here, and it's complicated. He's a bit of a legend. He kind of knows he's a legend. It's part of the problem. He's very aware of it, his legendness. So, we'll get him.
Reinforcing this perception of Malmstein is himself. When it comes to being in a band, Malmstein has described himself as a dictator, and clearly views himself more like a classical composer or even a painter such as Leonardo da Vinci. Point being that if you ever walk into a room with Ingve Malmstein, you're likely to suffocate from his ego. Number 8, Paul Stanley. In the last video, Gene Simmons made the list, but commentators were right in pointing out that it should have been Paul. Or at least both. Make no mistake, Gene is not the only dick in this clown paint brigade. Frontman Paul Stanley, whose voice is way too gay for how pompous he is, also has a long and full resume of being a professional douche. I showed this last time for Gene, but here's a quick moment of a middle-aged man in clown paint and high heels upset that an interviewer didn't wear his band shirt.
Kiss is K-I-S-S. This does not spell kiss. Gustavo.
Yeah, I mean,
big mistake.
do you guys want every journalist wearing Kiss t-shirts when doing Kiss
I don't
interviews?
want them wearing other t-shirts.
It's illegal.
Why would you?
Yeah, you know, but
You're at a Kiss concert.
It's a Kiss interview.
Doesn't show respect. You're in our house.
I don't want to be respectful.
Disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
In our house.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Paul has enjoyed openly trashing his former bandmates over the years, calling Ace Frehley a drug addict despite him being sober for a decade. There is also the time that Paul and Gene failed to understand that their drummer Eric Carr was dying of cancer, and they continued the band as if everything was fine, leading Eric to feeling betrayed on his own deathbed. Kiss is all about the love, baby. Number 7, Motley Crue. Man, fuck Motley Crue. Fuck all of them, especially fuck Vince Neil and fuck Dickie Six. Why? For their unbelievable betrayal to the one and only Mick Mars, the only member of the band who did not seem like a complete shithead. Mick was a founding member of the band whose guitar riffs helped make the band iconic over the years, and sadly, throughout his life as a rock star, Mick has struggled with the disease AS. In 2022, at the age of 71, Mick felt he couldn't handle the road life anymore and announced that he would no longer be touring with Motley Crue, but that he was not quitting the band. See, Mick's plan was to stay involved with studio work and select performances, like if they were doing a residency, but his body just physically could not handle the road anymore. As Mick made this announcement, the rest of the crew announced they considered Mick fully retired from the band and they were replacing him full-time with the hired gun John Five, who ditched his longtime boss Rob Zombie for a much shittier band. Mick was understandably very pissed off, and he sued the band, claiming that they were forcing him out of the band that he had founded and were reducing his ownership. And to defend themselves, Motley Crue blatantly gaslit Mick in the public, with Dickie Prick stating that Mick was suffering from a cognitive disease and was simply an old man who was being used by greedy lawyers to steal money from the band. To try to back up his claims, Dickie stated that Mars had been playing sloppily and would constantly mess up performances, making him a liability. Mick immediately shot back, claiming that all of the members had been using backing tracks to cover their shittiness at one point or another, and he even claimed that Dickie's bass lines were 100% pre-recorded. The full case is still ongoing, but this last year, a court did decide that the band had withheld documents and financial records from Mars that they owed him, and they were ordered by a judge to pay Mick's legal fees. Turns out that music and driving are not the only things that the crew suck at. Number 6, Greg Ginn. Greg is a founding guitarist of punk pioneers Black Flag, and like most longtime punk legends, he enjoys spending his free time by ripping people off and suing his former bandmates. As all true punks do. In the 1980s, Greg had his own independent label where he released music from Black Flag, Sonic Youth, along with many other punk, hardcore, and indie bands. And punk rock, Greg ripped all of them off. Many artists, including Henry Rollins, state that Greg never paid anyone royalties and refused to give bands their master recordings until they sued him for it. This ended up happening so much that it led to his label completely dissolving. Which, I mean, I guess it is punk rock to drive yourself into the gutter. Greg now sues the original members of Black Flag whenever they try to tour together, even under a different name, while he tours under the official Black Flag name with several lineups of unknown lackluster musicians, including its current lineup of Gen Z children. Yes, this is the official Black Flag in 2025. See, Greg got really tired of getting sued, so he decided to hire a band full of kids who were too young to understand how royalties and court proceedings work. And I have to ask, is it even legal for him to travel with kids this young? This legit looks like the thumbnail of one of those body cam videos on YouTube where the grandfather chained up their grandson in the basement. You'll eat when I say so, damn it! Oh, hey, what do you know? Greg was accused of that exact thing. In 2014, Greg's ex-wife filed a motion in court to restrict his access to their children, alleging that Greg would starve, mistreat, and abuse his daughters. And these claims were backed up by one of Greg's former vocalists. However, Greg was never charged for this, and it's been pretty much dropped completely. So hey, it's a good thing he has a lineup of kids now. Punk rock. Number 5, Moresy. Moresy is a dick. Moving on. Nah, Moresy is a flower fascist. He is a vegan dictator with a strong emphasis on the dick. I would say genuinely at this point, more people know him for being an asshole than they do his actual songs. Moresy is the former vocalist of the legendary band The Smiths and has been a solo artist for a long time, and he is an asshole. The biggest and most glaring flame from his ass is his very strict venue policy requiring that venues do not serve any meat on the day of his performance. Yes, this man will straight up walk out of a concert of 30,000 people because he saw someone eating a hot dog. No, seriously, I'm not joking. He's canceled headline shows in Texas and Iceland because they served meat at the venue. In 2016, he required all of Riot Fest in Chicago to not serve meat on the day he played, despite it being a festival of multiple stages and many bands, which obviously ended up pissing off a whole lot of people. At Coachella in 2009, he briefly left the stage, saying that the smell of meat nearby was making him sick, then saying, "I hope to God it's human." And hey, you know what? Given that it was Coachella, I think that one's fair. But don't worry, because even when the venue does go full vegan for him, he will still find any other reason to not play. In 1995, while on tour opening for David Bowie, very shortly into the tour, Moresy just decided, fuck it, I'm going home, and just bailed on Bowie without a word. Moresy has had a long list of concerts get canceled over his career for mysterious illnesses all of a sudden. In 2022, he left a show mid-performance because the venue's heater wasn't working and he claimed that it was just too cold. In Los Angeles. There are a lot more instances, but you get the point. So if you are a Moresy fan and you really want to go see him live, just make sure that the planets are aligned, the stones have been collected, and no one in your city has eaten meat for the last 6 months, and then he might decide to perform. So good luck. Number 4, Michael Keane. For me, the only thing worse than canceling a show just because you don't want to perform when people are already there to see you is blatantly stealing from your own fans who are generous enough to support you in your artistry. And that is where we meet Michael Keane of tech death band The Faceless. Fuck, I remember when these guys were on every single tour. You see, Michael really likes playing technical death metal, but what he loves is heroin. He's such a big fan of it that he's spent fans' money from merchandise on it. In 2017, the Faceless had to cancel a tour because their equipment went missing, with many very strongly assuming that Michael sold them for drugs. And aiding to that wild conspiracy is the fact that the entire band ended up quitting on him very shortly afterward, stating that it was directly due to his heroin problem. Michael made a post blaming all of them for disrespecting and betraying him, spoken like a classic addict, to which his former guitarist responded, and I quote, "Here you go again, shifting blame away from yourself and towards the last 18 people who have quit the band. Stealing money from the band, stealing money from fans, telling fans the reason why you can't play your guitar is because of you being nervous, not because of your heroin addiction and the fact that you never practice. Backtracking your solo in spiraling, getting the band's equipment sold from your storage unit from non-payment, and using the money our manager sent you to pay for the unit to buy heroin. Getting so high that you can't even make flights on time. Yeah, we sure betrayed you, dude. Get your fucking life together and take responsibility for your shitty actions." But wait, it gets worse. In 2022, at a show in Los Angeles, he showed up 45 minutes late and proceeded to get on stage only to rant like a homeless person in San Francisco.
You gotta get your shit set up. That's why I'm I know, but I just want to say, what I have to say, okay? Fuck yeah! I know, you're all like this big striking out MS or something crazy like that. Got an MRI, CAT scan, fucking spinal tap and shit.
The Faceless are now on the down low, so basically, Michael and the band are the extreme metal version of Puddle of Mudd. Number 3, Blake Judd. Blake Judd is the black metal version of everything I just said in the last entry. So you could argue the same issues but with less talent. Heroin and musicians are not a good combination, folks. Blake is the main man of the American black metal band Knock Mysticism, who are mostly well known for spending all of their fans' money on heroin. Seems to be a repeating theme. You see, fans would order merch that would simply never arrive, some of which never even existed in the first place. When fans would bring it up on social media, Blake at first would blame it all on their former manager, but then he ended up taking the high road by just simply blocking them. Because it doesn't count as ripping off your fans if you simply plug your ears and go, "I can't hear you, la 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 la." The truth would be revealed in 2013 when Blake was arrested for pawning his roommate's guitar so that he could buy heroin. What kind of a black metal credit is that? He didn't even burn down a church, just a stash? Pathetic. After his release, Blake made a public post finally admitting to his addiction problems and making a vow that he would get better for his fans. And as most heroin addicts do, he let them all down again. In 2014, fans ordered his new album, The World We Left Behind, with the majority of them not receiving their copy. The issue got so bad that the label Century Media publicly stated that they will be fulfilling all the missing orders without involving Blake at all, while also announcing that they would no longer be working with him. And knowing how the industry works on the inside, those people were fucking pissed before that happened. The very same year, his former guitarist and longtime personal friend wrote an article on Vice News detailing the truth of Blake's bullshit, claiming to have personally seen Blake cancel shows and rip off fans, venues, and labels, stating that Blake had sold off the rights to a band's album without asking them to buy heroin. Blake is a prime example of a guy who burned every single bridge from his fans and his friends, all because he idolized the drugged out lifestyle of a rock star way too much. And speaking of destructive idols, number 2, Sid Vicious. Sid Vicious was the full-time public nuisance in the legendary band the Sex Pistols. While in the band, Sid would hold a bass guitar as an excuse for being there because he had absolutely no fucking clue how to play it. No, seriously, I am not just being a dick here. It is well known and reported that he did not know how to play. The real reason that Sid Vicious was in the band in the first place is because the band's manager had chosen him for his bad boy look while knowing full well that he sucked as a musician. But you see, the manager would encourage Sid to up his bad boy behavior and go even wilder to add to the band's image. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call an industry plant. This well-known icon punk rock bad boy is credited with playing on a total of one song in his entire career, with the other members stating that it was so bad that it had to be highly edited in the end result. Sid simply never got better at the bass despite having lessons from Lemmy Kilmister, because Sid would just skip band practice, recordings, and even shows because he was too fucked on heroin. When he would show up for performances, the rest of the band would tune his bass down so low so that the audience couldn't hear how sloppy he was. And instead of hitting his bass strings, Sid would often hit the audience with his bass instead. Having Sid Vicious in your band was like being stuck in a car with a coked up Wolverine with rabies. At a show in 1978, Sid reportedly walked off the stage mid-song to buy heroin. And at the final show of the Sex Pistols US tour, Sid was so strung out on heroin that he barely even touched his bass, fought the crowd, and just fell over. Nice. Following this concert, the Sex Pistols immediately broke up, and Sid would go on to spend the following year doing heroin, living in shit, allegedly killing his girlfriend, and then dying of an overdose. All within a year of that last show. Thus taking his place in the history books as a fucking loser, let's be honest. Why do people romanticize this guy? And before we get to our worst bandmate of all time, I have two dishonorable mentions to throw on here who are so bad, so awful, so evil that they don't even get spots on this list, but people were confused why they were not mentioned in the last video. And those two subhuman specimens would be Davi Vanity of the shitty emo band Blood on the Dance Floor and Ian Watkins of the Lost Prophets, both of whom used their fame and influence to groom and sexually assault underage fans. See, Davi treated his concerts like he was Subway Jared and a Chuck E. Cheese, and Ian Watkins is basically Eyeliner Epstein. I view these as much more serious and separate from instances of bandmates being dicks to each other, so that's why I included Ian on my worst crimes list. And honestly, if I included them on every single worst person list, they would always take the #1 spot. And I really don't want to have to keep talking about these creatures, so I think we should just leave them where they belong, in the wood chipper. And now for the worst bandmate of all time. It is a twofer. Surprise. #1, Varg Vikernes and Uranomous. I knew people would have yelled at me if I'd put just one of them on here and not the other, so I thought I'd include both of them for you all to fight each other in the comments. The legend that every high school underground metalhead believes is the most evil story in metal's history. Uranomous was the original guitarist for the band Mayhem, pioneers of the Norwegian black metal scene. Uranomous was a try-hard dorky teenager who was obsessed with being seen as the true black metal warrior. One day, he came home to discover Mayhem's vocalist dead, had blown his brains out, and as all good Samaritans do, Uranomous did not hesitate to run out and buy a camera and rearrange the scene to make it look more dramatic and take pictures, which ended up being the cover of a bootleg Mayhem album. We've all seen it. It's gross. Uranomous did alert the police, but he also collected a couple fragments of Dead's skull and put them on necklaces to give to his friends. Typical Norwegian gifts. His actions enraged bass player Necro Butcher, who was good friends with Dead, and left the band in protest. And replacing him on bass was the one and only Varg Vikernes, the Voldemort of metal. Varg had his own project called Burzum, so joining Mayhem wasn't really his be-all end-all. During this time, Uranomous had his own record shop called Helvete, which became the main hangout and birthplace of the Norwegian black metal scene. This super serious, scary, satanic record shop, run by the true Dark Lord of black metal, was financed entirely by Uranomous' parents' money, never made a profit, and was eventually shut down when his parents asked him to. True black metal! Along with his business failure, Uranomous owed several bands money from his failed record label that he couldn't afford, one of which being Varg's Burzum. Varg was a bumbling little bag of extremism who'd already taken up the hobby of burning down churches across Norway. The two began as close friends, hanging out, talking about black metal, Satanism, and burning churches together, as all teenagers do. But Varg's views began to grow more radical. Yes, more radical than burning churches. And the two quickly began to resent each other. In a scene populated by pretentious egos, Uranomous saw himself as the one one true Dark Lord, and felt challenged by Varg's rise in notoriety. Most disrespectfully, however, was Uranomous began holding money from Varg that he owed him for Burzum's album. Being the hot-headed youngin' that he was, a nervous Uranomous started spouting off publicly that he was going to murder Varg, and Varg took that personally. Then, the night that lives in black metal infamy. Varg went to Uranomous' apartment, claiming that he just wanted to talk to him at 3 a.m. with a giant knife. One thing led to another, and Uranomous ended up dead with 23 stab wounds, 16 of which were in the back. Varg claimed it was self-defense, and was sentenced to prison for 21 years in Norway, and while locked up, Varg spent his time by starting a neo-Nazi organization, and not like a Republican or a slightly right-wing one. No, Varg was a legitimate neo-Nazi for a while. There were also persistent rumors throughout the metal world that while Varg was locked up in prison, he would send threatening letters to metal bands that he viewed as not worthy, but those have not been officially confirmed. After serving his time in prison, Varg now lives a quiet life out on a farm in France where he is still trying to get his truck to start. Many fans throughout the metal world feel like they have to choose a side between either Uranomous or Varg, like it's some satanic Twilight fan club. But honestly, looking back on this story with more mature eyes, they both seem pretty retarded. Growing up, the whole black metal ethos seems so dramatic and intimidating, and now it just seems kind of silly. But that is the finale of the sequel to Worst Bandmates of All Time. Another amazing example of what not to do in a band. Now that we've completed this Avengers lineup of shitty musicians, who do you think is the worst out of the list? Or did I yet again forget to include your most hated musician? Be sure to yell at me about it in the comments below. For more from me, check out my band Dark Insanity. You can find us on Instagram, on Spotify, on all of the streaming platforms, on Bandcamp as well. We have our EP Rabid Psychosis out now. This October, we are playing with Carnivore AD at the Whiskey A Go-Go in Hollywood, October 16th. Tickets are $25, so hit me or the band up if you'd like one. We've got Wyatt's Metal and Dark Insanity merch available now in my shop. We've also got hoodies, hats, buttons, stickers. We even have Dark Insanity weed bags. Link is in the description of this video. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video.